Welcome to the January 10th, 2022 meeting of the Marshfield Planning Board. Tonight's meeting is being recorded by MCTV, and our meeting is live via Zoom. Tonight's members here tonight are Katie O'Donnell, Fred Monaco, Nick Papastratis, Kevin Cantwell, and I'm Mike Viviano, the chair. Also here tonight is Greg Guimond, our town planner, and Karen Horn, our assistant town planner.
Want me to send you the link?
All right, everyone else, if you could please mute so we can get the meeting open. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to open tonight's meeting and to waive the reading of the public notice. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion. Fred.
All right,
Fred
I think I heard Katie first, so.
I'm sorry.
All right, so Katie seconded. All in favor, we're gonna do it by roll call. Katie?
Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Fred?
Fred
Okay,
Monaco,
Ron.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye.
Mike, can I jump in for a second before?
Yeah, please go ahead, Greg.
So because there are a lot of people that have not probably done a public hearing on Zoom with the planning board prior to this, this is an opening of a combined public hearing for both the subdivision plan and the water resource protection special permit for Red Gold Farm. The closest town well is Webster Well number 1, and that's approximately 1,936 feet to the east of the closest of the proposed houses. Webster Well 2 is about 3,790 feet away. This hearing will not be closed tonight, and there is no requirement for the board or the applicant to send out a second mailing. So you want to make sure you write down the hearing date and time at the end of this discussion, or if you miss that, contact the planning board office for when this will be continued to. The hearing will start with a short presentation by the applicants. Well, a presentation. We don't need, he needs to explain it. There's a lot of things going on. With a presentation by the applicant's engineer. It will then turn to comments sent to the planning board, then questions from the planning board. Then it'll go to questions and comments to the public.
I can hear it.
Please raise your hand, or if you go down to the bottom, there's a little hand feature you can use.
Yeah.
Or speak up, but please wait until you're recognized before you ask your question. And we also need you, because it's a public hearing, if you are speaking, please state your name and your address. Finally, this is a public hearing or a proposal for 23 single-family homes. This is not a 40B, and this is not a proposal for condominiums. This project is also undergoing review with the Conservation Commission tonight. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of moving parts still because there are certain things that we'll have to wait to hear from the Conservation Commission on before we may be able to wrap up. With that, Mike, I'll turn it back to you and we can have the applicant do his presentation.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Again, for everybody in attendance, please mute.
Okay, where should I go? I got the right screen now.
Yeah, so Steve Atwater, we keep hearing you. If you could mute, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, Steve is on.
Okay, we just need Steve to mute. That's all we need.
Okay, I'm trying to do
Exactly.
that right now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, they are hearing us. Okay, where do I go?
Oh, yeah, we're hearing you.
All right.
All right, if you can't mute, then just be super quiet. All right, so at this time, I'm going to make a motion.
Mike Viviano.
Okay, Ann McDonald, I need you to mute as well. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing for the WRPD special permit and the definitive subdivision plan for Reed Gold Farm and to waive the reading of the notice. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, aye. Katie O'Donnell.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. So this meeting is currently open, and is there an applicant that would like to start the opening remarks? And you can work with Greg to share the screen so we can see the plans.
Yep, we already got that worked out. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gabriel Padilla. I am engineer with Grady Consulting, and we are the engineers working on the subdivision for 202 Marine Street. So what we're proposing is a 23 lot subdivision. One of the lots has already been developed, which is the one that I'm highlighting in the plan right now. The other 22 are going to be part of the area that we're developing. We are proposing a 1,700-foot long driveway with a cul-de-sac at the end, which is one of the waivers we're asking for, to allow more than a 800-foot dead-end road. We also requested a waiver to allow for the driveway to serve more than 8 lots, which we have here. This driveway will be serving 19 out of the 22 interior lots. We are also requesting a drainage easement in this area for a pocket wetland that we're proposing in this area. This project, we're proposing 2 pocket wetlands, one on this other side and another one on this. You'll see later on. Another variance that we requested was cover over the drain pipes to be less than 2.5 feet. You'll see during the presentation that the grades are a little bit tough here. So many of the pipes are going to be less than 2.5 feet. So we're proposing using class 5 RCP on those areas. The other waiver that we had in there was for the construction of a subsurface system in the cul-de-sac. However, we've been working with Concom, and we've been doing some back and forth, and that subsurface system will be eliminated. So that will pretty much eliminate that waiver request. Moving along, the existing condition in the area. Let me just pull that sheet up here real quick. So this is in front of the road. We have an existing barn with old cranberry sorting equipment. We've been in conversations with the historical in order to find a way to keep this barn and make it as part of, for the benefit of the public. What we're trying to do with that is put it in a location which will connect to the path system. We have proposed a path where this dotted line is, which will connect our Red Gold Road back to Webster Street on the other end. So it'll be a nice public area where everyone can come by and walk around. And we're talking about putting the barn in around this area, so it gets easy access to the path that we're proposing. So going back to the existing conditions plan. I'm sorry, a little bit slow here today. So in the complete lot, we have a series of wetlands in the area, and this went crazy. I'm so sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. There is, we are working with 3 wetland areas here and another one here, which is comprised of the bog. We are not proposing any work within the wetlands. All that is going to be left as is. Moving along the line, we have the area that is bordered by, by bogs on one side. We have houses on the other. You can see we got a house here, another here. We are trying to keep at least a 20-foot buffer of natural vegetation between the neighbors and the new development in order to keep pretty much a natural screen, if you will. Now we go to the proposed. So the roadway that we're proposing is suitable for the zone. I believe it's a residential C, I believe it is. We are obviously in WRPD. We did receive the comments today from Mr. Eigner, and we will be working closely with him to get everything that we need to get. Everything we need to get sorted out. He had some comments on the nitrogen loading charts that we submitted. But again, we got those today and we're looking at those. Don't believe I have much else to say here. There is proposed grading on the lots. However, the lots themselves will be developed individually. So as of right now, what would be the proverbial set in stone would be the grading on the roadway. I will pull up here the profile. So the roadway itself, we're proposing 2% maximum. So it's here we got a 4% going in. As you can see, there's significant grading. There's significant grading in the area, and we're trying to minimize it, and that's why we ended up having these pipes so close to the ground. In order for our drainage analysis to work better, we proposed these 2 pocket wetlands in lieu of regular infiltration basin, because we would pretty much have to build up the whole thing. And having wetlands on both sides, that really didn't help. So we went with the pocket wetlands, which blend in very, very well with the rest of the area as it is naturally. I did receive comments from Mr. Rod Procaccino. We are looking at those and making all the arrangements that we need to do and all the changes and updates that we need to do. That's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Do you have anyone else from the, from your applicants that would like to speak on this at all? Sorry, is there anyone else from the application would like to speak? Greg, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like they have no one else. I don't hear anyone else. Do you want to go to Pat, or do you want to talk, Greg?
We'll go to Pat first.
Okay.
And Beth, we see your hand up on the hand function, but we haven't gotten to the public hearing just yet. Public comments and questions just yet.
Yeah, for the public, we'll get to everyone after we hear for all the engineers and go over the whole plan, and everyone will have a chance to speak. So Pat Brennan, our review engineer, we'll let him speak about his comments now.
All right, thanks, Mike. Pat Brennan with Amory Engineers. I did review the plans, drainage calculations. I submitted a letter to the board on December 21st with a number of comments. There's about 25 comments here. I'm not going to go over all of them, just a couple of the highlights. Under my roadway comments, we've talked about this before. Your regulations call for an 18-inch wide Cape Cod berm, which is what they're showing on each side of the roadway. It's been my experience that most of the paving companies don't have the equipment for the 18-inch berm. So it's just, I would just suggest that the board consider going with a 12-inch berm and just make the two travel lanes 6 inches wider. So your total width of pavement with the berms is the 23 feet that it would be with the 18-inch. I'm asking them to show a site distance triangle at the proposed roads intersection with Moraine Street so that we make sure that we have adequate site distance there. And then the majority of my comments are in relation to the utilities and the stormwater. One of the things that they're doing is they're going to be getting water from Duxbury by extending the Duxbury water main down Moraine Street to the development. So I'm just asking that they demonstrate they will have adequate water supply for fire protection. They have a number of they've done a lot of soil testing out on site, but they still need some additional, based on whatever the final drainage design is. They may need some additional soil testing at proposed drainage systems just to make sure that we have adequate separation of groundwater. Because one of my concerns was where they had that subsurface infiltration system in the center of the cul-de-sac turnaround. It looked like that was going to be sitting in groundwater. And you know, the regulations require a minimum of 2 feet of separation between the bottom of an infiltration system and groundwater. I had a number of questions about that. They have a series of proposed crushed stone trenches are kind of around the perimeter of the property, which is those are designed to capture the runoff coming off the lots before it either gets into the cranberry bogs or onto adjacent properties. So I just had some questions about those and how those were modeled in the analysis that I'm asking them to take a look at, as well as some of the time of concentration flow passes and that type of thing. They also are showing a catch basin connection at the intersection of the proposed roadway and Moraine Street. Your regulations don't allow for that. It has to go from a catch basin to a manhole. You can't go from one catch basin to another. What it does is it resuspends any solids that may have settled out in the sump of the catch basins. So I've asked them to take a look at that or revise that, probably add a drain manhole. Those two catch basins are also connecting into the Mass DOT system in Moraine Street. So they're going to need Mass DOT approval for that. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, again, most of my other comments are more technical when it comes to the drainage. So I think that's something that I'll just have to work through with Gabriel as the project moves forward. I know that Greg's been telling me that there's some potential changes to the layout, maybe not the layout, but some of the items. So, you know, a lot of these comments may go away on their own based on whatever plan revisions may be coming. So like I said, I didn't want to go into too much detail at this point in time, but there's a lot of concerns that I have that we just need to work through and address them as the project moves forward.
Okay, thank you, Pat. Obviously, there's quite a few things to still work through on there. I'll go to Greg, our town planner, at this time for his comments.
Gabriel, could you stop sharing for the moment? Thank you. Michael, can you see the screen?
We can see it, yes.
Okay. So the overall project is fairly long. It runs on the left here. The Green Harbor River comes in and starts heading around the bogs. That's the beginning of the property. We have town-owned land in green. Then we come to more bogs. Then we come over to the far side or the south side of the project. We have that barn down at the bottom that I've got it circled in green. That's the wood barn. That's the one that the Historic Commission, Historic Society, and Agricultural Commission committee are working with the applicants to possibly move that further up into the site to allow it to remain and become town property. There is a metal barn on this lot, I think is it 15? Right on the corner here. That is to be removed. One of the houses is to be removed. The yellow up above it is all Eversource land, which is got the old railroad right of way running through it. And there is some discussion with the Trails Committee about getting the connection south to the Duxbury line and the old Pilgrim Trail. There is a large portion of the old railroad right of way in this area here, which we have some wetlands now because of changes in the landscape. And one of the discussions that the applicant is having with the Trails Committee is running a trail along the side down through here, across the existing gravel trail. They show it going down to the road, but we would also need it to come across the causeway. And then there's also some discussion with the applicant about some decking that would be needed so we could get it over to Stagecoach Drive and Steamboat Drive, where that green gate entrance is. That is the beginning of the Hall property, which the town has been in the process of taking for trail purposes as well. And that would give us our connection. So those two property owners, this would be an addition that would assist getting some of the trail network out of wetlands and crossings. One of the discussions that the board will need to have with the applicant is possibly changing the 46-foot wide right-of-way with two sidewalks. I'm considering or recommending that we should consider a 40-foot wide right-of-way with either one sidewalk or no sidewalks. And that they would ask for a waiver, and the public benefit would be the trail network work that they would do. And that's something for the board to consider. The staff is also flagged. We have three areas or three lots that we've identified that we question the frontage. There's a lot 3 in the back here, a lot 4 in the back here, and then lot 23 way over in the middle of the bogs to the far left, way over to the side. All of those we're questioning the frontage and want to have some discussion with that on the best means forward with those lots. There is some issues with the nitrogen loading, as from Ed Eichner's comments, they are above the 5. In the past, the board has tried to either limit the bedrooms or limit the lawn size. And we've had difficulties with both those means. So one of the other means may be a reduction in the number of houses could also achieve that. That's pretty much it for now. As I said, we're expecting to continue the public hearing tonight, and there'll be some additional work and some refinement on a number of these issues. Conservation Commission would probably favor the smaller road width as well, because you really squeeze between those two wetland areas. And those two drainage areas that they're talking about, typically the board wants that on land that would be turned over to the town with the road. By having the barn with the cranberry sorting machine on that parcel, that drainage parcel, and having that become town land would work in the favor of having that that effort move forward as well for a public benefit. Again, there's a few more people. I have to watch multiple screens. I just admitted a couple more people, so I will keep trying to keep track on that. We did receive comments from Board of Health. Gary from the Board of Health says septic system so far, he doesn't see any problems. However, he feels that homeowners will probably change locations and they'll need to do additional perk tests. There was, Gabriel had already referenced the fact that we had a number of comments from DPW. We've had comments from Ed Eichner. We've had comments from Pat. We also received letters from the Historic Commission and the Trails Committee saying that they're supporting the project with the cranberry bond or the barn and the cranberry sorter and the work on the trails as part of their public benefits. With that, I will go back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Greg. You know, to the public and the board, obviously, we still have a lot of issues to work through. Nothing's going to be resolved tonight. It's our first meeting. There'll be several. At this time, I'll go to the board. If there's anyone from the board that has a question, please ask now.
Thanks, Mike. I was wondering what is happening with the bogs themselves. Are they going to continue to be harvested and used?
As of right now, we don't have a final decision on that. There was a touting to keep using them, rent them out. There is still no, obviously they're not going to be developed in any way, but as of right now, we don't have a final decision on what we're going to do with them.
Okay.
I think it might be helpful too, Katie. Maybe we could schedule a site visit. Greg, is that still
I'm
possible?
right with you on that. I think that would be great.
Okay. And that would be for the board, not having a meeting, not discussing the project, but just so we can go put eyes on the land. So Greg can arrange that, and he'll email us out some time and dates that could possibly work.
Yep.
And then sorry to cut you off, Katie. I'll let you keep going.
No, not at all. And I guess like one thing that jumped out on me is that those lots that propose the shared common drive, that would be a major issue of concern for me. But otherwise, I'm curious to see what other questions people have, and I'm just listening for now.
Okay, thank you. So we're still with the board. Ned, I see your hand up. Just we'll get you in a few seconds. Anyone else from the board? Fred?
No, I want to hear what the public, I got a lot of, we're looking into it. I think when we see have a site visit, that'll help me a little bit more understand. It's very complex.
Yeah, this is quite a big site, so there's a lot to think about on this.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, was your hand up or?
No, I'm good. I'm good for now. Thanks.
Great. Kevin, anything right now?
I'll step right now.
Okay. So at this time, Ned, I saw your hand up. Did you have something to say about the trails? We'll just let you unmute there and say your name and who you are for the record.
Yes, Ned Bangs, Vice Chair of the Recreation Trails Committee, Woodlawn Circle. I was just going to mention that this is one of the major goals of the RTC is to have connectivity from the Situate town line to the Duxbury town line and through the bridle path and the rail trail. And we're requesting Greg mentioned it, the Causeway connector through the Gold Farm subdivision. It would allow the trail to avoid a large area of wetlands that are along the old railroad right of way. And additionally, we're working with Eversource on a lease agreement down there where the curve is, where you'd come down at the off of Webster Street across from the Green Harbor Golf Course. So, the public benefit of having trails there will be very positive.
Okay, thanks for the comments and the other work you do in town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the town? If not, I'm going to go to the public for a few questions and comments. I will say with the public, I'll take you as I see you. If your camera's on, it makes that a lot easier to see you, and we will need your name and number. There's also a few pages on here, so I have to scroll through to see hands. I'm going to start now with George Driscoll, and if you could give us your name and address That'd be great.
Gotta
Just-
unmute.
That's not George.
So, George, I see,
There we go.
okay, there you go.
George Driscoll, 56 Whitford Circle in Marshfield, obviously. And my wife has a couple of questions. She's been taking notes.
Hi,
This is Dorothy.
I'm Dorothy Driscoll, Woodford Circle, 56 Marshfield. I just have a couple of questions. One, I like the idea of the trails along the rail bed, but I have a question. Nobody has addressed parking. Where would people park if they want to come in from Marine Street to come that way?
From Stagecoach.
Or up in Stagecoach, parking, or again on Webster Street. Is there been any provisions allowed for parking? My other question is on, I think you said lot 23, that's going to be down by Webster Street between the two bogs. Isn't that right near the transformer station? And how far does a house have to be from a transformer station? My other one, I believe it was Catherine O'Donnell said the bogs can't be developed. Do we have an assurance that once we put these houses in, that these bogs will not be filled in and developed? Our town hall is on what was bogged lands many years ago. And my last question is, and I don't understand the drainage easements, where they're going to be, are this going to have effect on the bogs, the wetlands, and the river? Those are my questions. That's all.
Okay, so let me
Thank
start with
you.
one thing. I think you misquoted Katie O'Donnell. I think she had a question. I think you put a few words in her mouth. She didn't say something could or could not be developed. She had asked if the cranberry bogs were still going to be worked, just to clear that up. So,
I thought she had also said something about cannot be developed, and I put question marks beside it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that was a question she brought up. So let me first
So
we'll go
Mike,
back to Gabriel.
Mike,
Yep.
I can take care of 1 and 2. I think Gabriel will have to answer 3 and 4.
Okay, so one was on the parking.
So on the trails parking, the Trails Committee has had some rough discussions. On the corner at Webster Street, where those tree cutting trucks have been parked a lot recently, that area is town right away. So we would be putting in a small parking lot there. And we've had discussions with the applicant that there would be a small parking lot, again, like 4 or 5 small, on the Red Gold subdivision development itself, where the cranberry barns and the barn and the cranberry sorter would be going. So those would be the 2 access points for people that would want to access. And this is not about the trails. This is about the subdivision. The second question is, the house is already in existence. There is already a house out there and workshop. Yes, it is fairly close to the substation, but we have no regulations factoring whether or not how far away you have to be from a substation for a house.
Well, when it starts humming, you'll know you're close.
So please don't, other people from the public who, you can't just jump in and talk, or we have to mute you on our side. Please don't do that. Gabriel, can you please answer questions 3 through 5, I believe?
Yes. 3, bogs won't be developed. Well, no, we are not proposing in any way to develop the bogs. If it's not part of this, it's not part of this development.
Gabriel, who will own the bogs afterward?
I'm sorry?
After the subdivision goes in, who will own the bogs?
I do not have an answer on that. I will check up on that, but it's still part of the subdivision. I will check up on that and get back to you.
Okay. 4?
And yep. and about the drainage easement. So in this case, it won't affect anything outside the subdivision in this case. The easement itself is in one of the lots that we're proposing. And will it affect the bogs? No. This is what we're proposing in that area is to have a large enough pond that really doesn't affect anything downstream. That is part of the requirements from DEP and obviously the town's bylaws. And the wetlands will not be touched. We are proposing all work to be outside of the wetlands. We're not proposing any work in any wetlands. And actually the two, what we're using to mitigate stormwater and drainage is actually two constructed wetlands. So it's something that is going to look natural in that area.
That answers it. Question 5?
Was
No,
there
I
a
only-
question?
Yeah,
No, I
there's
only had 4.
questions.
Oh, you had 4, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, hope that was helpful. Next I saw Beth had her hand up. So Beth, we need your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Beth Cassoni, 96 Meeting House Lane. I am in butter. I look out my backyard and I abut the railroad bed. So I walk out to the dam and I've walked this property many a times. I've been here for 23 years. And it gives me great concern to see such a large development in a wooded area where there is such a diverse wildlife. I spend most of my professional life fighting to keep the oceans clean. And as we know, everything lands up in the ocean somehow, some way. And this river, the Green Harbor River, feeds into the Cape Cod Bay. And I am greatly concerned about the runoff effects. I'd like to know more. This is the first time I'm seeing or hearing anything about this project. And I'd like to know more about what their mitigation is for nitrate loading, because algae blooms are a great concern. And I do have a couple of questions. You mentioned a 20-foot buffer of natural screen. And I want to know if that is going to be on the Blackmount Pond's water's edge. When I look across the water, there could be 25 to 50 white great herons in the trees during storms. They come in for refuge. I'm greatly concerned about the impact. I have seen snapping turtles, painted turtles, eastern box turtles, and a plethora of other turtles that come in my yard and they lay their eggs in my mulch beds. So I'd like to know who to contact on the Conservation Commission about that. And then another concern I have is the dam. Having taken many walks out back there, the Garretsons have made it clear to me as an abutter, as a walker, that, don't go any further than the dam. They maintain the dam. Who's going to maintain that dam once the Garretsons are gone? Because without that dam, that water is just going to spill into Webster Street. It's just going to run into the river. And then the path, I did get some clarification from the previous commenter. So my understanding is the path would start down across from Green Harbor Golf Course. The wetlands out back, that would be a very long boardwalk to get from, I'm on Meeting House to get to the next connector. And who's going to maintain that? I know the Rails to Trails and the recreational department does a great job, but having maintained the little bit of, it's maybe 50 feet of path for me to walk out to the cranberry bogs year after year. I pick up beer cans, beer balls, all kinds of trash. So I'm just curious who's going to plan on maintaining that. And I know this isn't about the trails, but it's a concern I have. Thank you.
Okay, we go back to Gabriel. If you could quickly Well, first I'll say about the nitrogen, that is not been worked through yet. We have a very strict nitrogen loading level calculation that Pat reviews with the town and the applicant, so it's still to be worked out. I don't
I want to know who the applicant.
Oh, Claudette, can you please mute?
I'm sorry.
I'm going to go back to Gabriel. Can you answer any of the questions briefly at all?
Well, I can go over them. So the first one concerning the nitrogen loading, as Mr. Bibiano said, yes, there are some regulations that limit the loading in that area, mainly because we're in a water resource protection district. Therefore, it is strictly monitored, controlled in the design. We did receive comments back today on those that we submitted, and there will be changes. And if any conditions arise out of that, that would mean we would be made part of the deeds in the future when they sell the lots. And the 20-foot buffer from the pond out back, we're proposing, so there is an area out in the back which sort of looks like a pocket, like a big hole in that area. It's pretty much, I'd say, about 100 feet from the edge of the bog. From that point back, in that area specifically, we're saying pretty much 75 feet behind that line. This concerns more conservation, but the Conservation Commission does not permit any structures to be built within 75 feet of a wetland line. The wetland line in that case pretty much is the edge of the water in that area. Now, the dam, who will maintain the dam after the Garrettsons are gone, that goes by with the same question that Mr. Bibiano asked of who owns the bog after this is built. It will be clarified. And who will maintain the path? The path, again, that's another answer I don't have at the moment, but I will get back to you with an answer on that.
I do have one follow-up question, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
Just from living here for so long, you hear the noises out back. There's a large population of coyotes out there and deer, and, displacing them. What are your plans on that? I mean, how do you move a pack of coyotes? I mean, do you just run them out? I mean, it's definitely a large area that, not probably in the last 10 or 12 years, my kids are grown and gone, but we spent a lot of time out there, and it is a large wooded area that has now been made home to a bunch of coyotes that are, they're in the neighborhoods, but they like it out back there.
I think you've already answered your own question. They cut those trees and they start going, so there's not really a response there. It's the unfortunate part of cutting forest down. So,
Mike?
Yes.
The Conservation Commission contact is Bill Grafton.
Okay, yep.
For Beth's question. And there's also part of the discussion they're having with the Conservation Commission is the actual location of the Green Harbor River and 200-foot setbacks for the rivers, the 100-foot setback for the wetlands, et cetera. So there is a lot to work to do, which is why on the planning board side, some of these things are going to have to hold for a while until we have more information from the Conservation Commission. I believe Gabriel's 20-foot buffer that he had been speaking about was along the southern property line, close to the Duxbury. So the houses on the opposite side from you that come right up to the back of it. That's the area I believe Gabriel was talking about, the 20-foot buffer.
Okay, is the property staked out back yet or no?
I don't think, I have not been in that area. When I walked the area with the applicant, it had not been staked yet.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very helpful.
Thank you for the comments. Next, I see Patricia Riley has her hand up. So get your name and address, please.
Good evening, Tricia Riley, 170 Whitford Circle. I guess my question is going to be what the process, I apologize for that, what the process will be as far as going through the Conservation Commission. We just found out about this today, or I just found out about this today, and I can't kind of picture how this development fits in with the Hoyt's Hall, I think it's called, the preservation land there. I think, I know Ned Bangs is familiar with that area. I've run into him there. But will the public have input and ability to ask questions after this goes in front of the Conservation Commission and comes back to the planning board? Because I do have concerns about runoff, the drainage issue and runoff, but they might be addressed with the Conservation Commission.
Gabriel, this has been opened with conservation already. Is that correct?
Yes, it has. We have the next hearing on the 18th, if you'd like to join that one.
Okay, so hopefully that helps you a little bit. If you have any conservation questions, you can tune into the 18th meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? You can put your hand up, or you can hit the little button that puts a hand up.
Darren? Mike?
Okay, just saw Darren. Okay, Darren, your turn. Name and address, please.
This is Darren Domingos at 14 Moraine Street. I had a question about how, if it's been discussed, how you'll deal with the additional traffic from the 23 units out onto Moraine Street. I know especially that corner is a tight corner when folks come around. So just expectations around traffic in and out and how you plan to manage that. Thank you.
So I do know Pat, our review engineer, requested some more information on the line of sight for that. Greg, do we have any regulations on extra traffic on the street at all? Or is that outside the bounds?
It is below our threshold for a traffic impact study because it's 10 trips per single family home. So that's about 230. We require 800 trips to trip a traffic impact. We do have a stop site distance requirement. And I think that's what Pat was getting at with what he needed to look at with Gabriel.
Okay, Darren, does that answer your question?
Yeah, not so much as the traffic control, but just additional traffic in and out with excess vehicles. I know we have got a lot of Amazon deliveries, mail trucks, et cetera. So the folks who live on that street is more my concern, not so much I don't expect there will be a stoplight for 23 additional homes.
No, it does not sound like they have to do any study, so there wouldn't be any additional things brought up unless they find something with their line of sight. And we talk about it after we get that information back.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next with their hand up, I see Bruce Roberts. Name and address, please.
Hi, good evening. It's Bruce Roberts, 154 King Phillips Path. And in looking at the plans, I see, and I already heard a little discussion about Lot 3 and Lot 4. Lot 3 and Lot 4 look to be difficult lots as they're proposed on the plan there, and half to 2/3 of the property on each one of those lots overlaps onto the bogs that are existing, and maybe calls for a common driveway to even potentially access them. And I didn't know what the progression was of those two particular lots to be accepted or not relative to the others. And one second question that I'll throw out there. Has the town discussed any plans of encumbering the property, so with a covenant or some control, so that the bogs and the wetland areas never become buildable?
I can't answer that question. The first question goes back to the common driveways. We do not currently allow common driveways. They haven't proposed on this plan, and that's something we will get into further down the road with subsequent meetings in the future to address that, if we will accept them or not. So, Greg, has there been any talks about any of the restrictions over the bogs for the future at all?
Way back in the beginning when the applicant had first come in to talk with me before submitting, I had asked whether or not they were going to turn the bogs over to the town as open space, et cetera.
Yeah, something.
This great. They had replied back that they were still seeking to operate the bogs. Now, that doesn't mean that the bogs couldn't be operated under a lease agreement with the town ownership, but I think they were seeing it as still potential revenue. So they have not offered that with the submittal to date.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Bruce, hope that answers your questions.
Thank you.
Okay, just looking around for the public, for anyone else with their hands up. We got a couple more minutes if we need them. I don't see any, so if I'm not seeing you, please speak up. Okay, Greg, you don't see any hands up, right?
Nope, I don't see any hands up.
Excuse
Okay.
me, I'm sorry, I can't get my hand up on my computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Speaking up's fine too. So Karen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
What's your name and
Karen
address, please?
Stanley, 64 Meeting House Lane. One question that.
Karen Shanley.
Yes.
Yes.
One question that my husband and I have. Why isn't my video? Sorry about the video. Okay. So has anybody done any studies on the effect of the water level on the ponds that are there and what it might do? For example, the rail trail, the easement, the Eversource easement. I know when we first moved here, it was walkable and now it's completely flooded. Is this subdivision going to make that level even higher than it is right now?
I can go to Gabriel for that if you have any information to share.
Gabriel. No, Gabriel has nothing.
Is that someone that has
no.
a? Give me 1 second, Gabriel. Someone that just has iPhone, you need to mute. You can't just jump in and say a comment, or we'll have to remove you. So if your name's iPhone on here, please mute now. And Greg, if they talk again, you can just kick them out. Gabriel, do you have any comments about that?
I mean, no water level change should be experienced in that area. The development itself pretty much blends in with the existing area. We're not adding any more. We're not adding any more soil that might reduce the capacity of the water in that area. So we don't see any changes in those areas.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Michael Shanley, 64 Meeting House Lane. Is even part or the entirety of this proposed development in the flood zone?
Yes, it is. And we have considered that. The flood zone is at an elevation 9, and it's pretty much borders the lot itself, the whole subdivision. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So the pond, the bogs, and that wetland area in between are all in the AE9, and a little bit of a portion of some of the lots are also in the AE9. And to go back to Karen's first question, if you go back to the 1941 USGS map, there was no pond. It was just the Green Harbor River. And there was another jump in pond size in 51 and then in 71. So the pond has increased over time. I had a conversation with the applicant about it, and they have talked about, depending on if they go to a natural bog, meaning changing in the fertilizer and stuff, they're also going to look into, could they lower the amount of water in that pond area, which would allow some of the old railroad bed to come back up out of the water.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Anyone else from the public? I think we already heard from Beth, unless that's a new question, Beth.
I have one follow-up question. Thank you, if I may. Just to follow up on the pond, the level of water, seeing it's spring fed, and if the cranberry bogs are not going to be working cranberry bogs, I know that the water level goes up and down. I watch it, and they use that water to water the cranberry bogs. If they're not going to harvest the cranberries, that water levels, where's it gonna go? Is it just gonna, if they're not gonna maintain the culvert, the flow, the water level, in my simple thinking, will continue to rise and overflow the dam. So I'm just curious if there's any type of mitigation for that.
So we have not had complete discussions on the bog operations yet. I was not saying that they are not going to harvest. My impression is that they are still going to use the bog and harvest the bogs, but they were looking into changing into a more, they were saying, more natural way of fertilizing and production and stuff. It may be spring fed, but it is also the Green Harbor River.
Right.
And that is also influencing the height of the dam and the bog, et cetera. At the moment, the applicant is still showing that he or she would be the owners of the bogs. They may lease them out, but they would be the ones responsible for the dam.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. So we have a lot of things to work through in the meetings that will be coming. We're probably going to continue this right now. It's about 8 o'clock and we have a busy agenda behind this as well. So Greg or Karen, do you have a date to continue this to?
We had not been able to talk with Grady, the engineering consultant, yet for what they felt comfortable with to continue to.
Okay, so we don't need any meeting date. We're just going to continue the meeting to a.
No. We need to have a date time certain tonight. But I had not been able to talk to Gabriel about it. I did talk to Kevin. He had suggested the 24th of January, but that may be too soon for Gabriel for some of these issues to be worked out.
Okay. Gabriel, what are your thoughts on the 24th? Do you need more time?
Sorry. Am I okay? I'm not muted. Okay. Yeah, I believe the 24th would be too quick, especially because we also have that CONCOM meeting next week, which might change some things too. So I do believe the day you had sent after that was the next meeting, I believe.
February 7th is the next meeting.
February 7th. Yep,
And then February
that would work.
28th.
7th would work.
That's okay, Gabriel?
Yep.
Okay, great. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we continue this public hearing until February 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m.
February 7th.
February 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Thank you, Fred.
Fred, you need to unmute.
Fred Monaco, aye.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin.
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Okay, Mike Viviano, aye. So this hearing is continued until February 7th, and we'll see everyone back then.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And if people have questions, they can come to the planning board and speak to Karen or I.
Okay, Greg, do we have an associate member for the interview tonight?
We have somebody who's interested. Actually, we have two people. We have Peg Davis still, and we have Scott DeCastro, who is on and available to talk to you guys about that if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great. Scott, are you on here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just looking for you. I can't find you.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Nick. How's it going?
Oh, there you are. Okay. There's so many people. It's hard to find you. Scott, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a longtime resident of Marshfield. I grew up on Union Street. I now live in Woodlawn Circle with Fred and Ned. They have done wonders for the town and on their various ordeals with the trails as well as planning board, obviously. And I continue to want to enhance the town and keep everything in line with wetlands and everything moving forward, making sure that the town stays as as it has been for many years. I recently moved jobs back into real estate, local with Coldwell Banker in Duxbury, and I was a sales manager in a tech startup in Cambridge for many years prior to that. So I'm regrouping back into the Marshfield scene more and more every day, and I want to continue to do my best moving forward with the board itself.
Okay, thank you. Do you have the time to meet with us every other Monday without?
Yes, I do.
Complications? Okay.
Yep.
It's a bit of a dedication to come. It doesn't sound like much every other Monday, but sometimes it gets to be. So just to make sure you have that time. Any questions from anyone else on the board at all?
I was wondering if right now we have a full board. But if someone were to step down or not run for election, do you think that that's something you'd be interested in doing in the future?
I think so, yes. As I said, I've been in Marshfield my whole life and I don't look to go anywhere. And I think this is something that I would like to do long term.
Okay. Obviously, you're not locked in, but that's always just something I'm saying.
Sure.
Good question, Katie. Oh, any other questions from the board members at all?
No.
Okay. So we'll all think about it and we'll get back to you and maybe have you at the next meeting.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Oh.
All right. We're moving on now to the presentation on the MBTA community state zoning change. Greg?
Okay. Share. Do you guys see the screen?
We can.
Okay. Last January 6th, at the end of the legislative session, the state passed a new Section 3A to Chapter 48, which is our state zoning act. The next two slides, why are we not? Hold on a second. Sorry, I had it up. It's supposed to be running, but let's see. Here we go. So these next two slides is the actual language that they passed. I'm just going to let you look at all those words, and then I'm going to explain what they're saying. So there's Section A, Section B, and Section C. Section A is telling us the requirements. Section B is telling us the funding sources that we would be eligible for grants for. And Section C says the state is working, or DHCD is working on regulations. So Section A, an MBTA community, and I'll get back to that in a few moments, shall have a zoning ordinance or bylaw that provides for at least one district of reasonable size, which they think 77 acres is reasonable for the town of Marshfield, which multifamily housing would be allowed by right. Said district shall have a minimum gross density of 15 units per acre and shall be located not more than 0.5 miles from a commuter rail station, subway station, ferry terminal, or bus station. Said district, as I mentioned, 77 acres. The housing cannot have age restriction, and the housing must be suitable for families with children. Their only requirement for being suitable for children is that you have multiple bedrooms. Sadly, there is no requirement for any of these units to be affordable. Therefore, they will not count towards our affordable or 40B housing numbers, the 10% the state wants. Now, MBTA communities are shown on the slide as green, and you can see Marshfield over here is green. They further break it down by MBTA communities by type. If you notice, we are a light green. We are designated as an MBTA adjacent community. If we then go on their website to see what they expect, you can see Marshfield here, MBTA adjacent, They took our most recent census numbers. We have 11,575 homes. So they expect our district to produce 1,158 units. So we are being considered under these proposed regulations by DHCD that we should be an MBTA community and that we should provide this type of by right multifamily housing. Marshfield has no MBTA service, no usable public transportation to an MBTA commuter rail station. The state says that, well, we could take the Gatra bus south through Duxbury into Kingston, which having my child do that and several other people try that before, it takes an hour to get to the MBTA station from Marshfield. They have the definition that they call us an adjacent community because we have a station at Situate in Greenbush. But we do not have, as I mentioned before, any kind of transit station within 0.5 miles of our border. The commuter rail station is 1.6 miles from the Marshfield town line, which is the North River, and is 7.2 miles from our downtown. There is no public transportation to Greenbush from Marshfield. There are over 3 miles of Route 3A, and most of the collector streets in the northern end of town have no sidewalks. No bike lane is provided on 3A or any of the collector streets in the northern end of town, and all these streets have very little to no shoulders. This definition in the draft guidelines that the DHCD is proposing goes well beyond the original language of the state law, which says be located not more than 0.5 miles from a commuter rail station, subway station, ferry terminal, or bus station. DHCD expects adjacent communities to provide a minimum of our total housing stock, 10% of our total housing stock, to be multifamily by right in their district. Marshfield already has 20% of our housing stock as multifamily housing already in the town. The section B, where they're talking about the grants that they are using for this and are kind of the carrot for us to do this act, is Housing Choice Program, Local Capital Fund, and Mass Works Infrastructure Program. The first one, Housing Choice, has been used mostly for infrastructure improvements like sidewalks, paths, sewer lines, etc., to tie new housing into existing developments, but it also has been used for master plan and housing production plan funding. The Local Capital Fund has been, which is coming from the gaming licenses, has been mostly been used to create new housing developments. And the Mass Works Infrastructure Program, again, has been primarily used for infrastructure projects to support accelerated housing production and to create jobs in the Commonwealth. Number C, or Section C, basically is where they came up with, they have 4 categories: the rapid transit, 25%, bus service, 20%, commuter rail communities, 15%, and adjacent communities, 10%. They have a public hearing coming up this Wednesday on January 12th at 1 p.m. I don't have the link yet for that, but people could attend that Zoom meeting and they could comment if they so to choose. The town has to have their comments in by March 31st, and the DHCD and MBTA will have their final guidelines available no later than May 2nd of this year. Recommendations for the board to consider: Marshfield should consider commenting on the proposed language and object to the definitions of adjacent community, MBTA community, multifamily district, which would require multifamily by right, and the principle of one zoning density of 15 units for all communities. We're not all the same type of community. We have very varied environmental infrastructure and topography, and that should be considered. Marshfield has multiple residential zoning districts of many different densities, from 1 unit per acre to 13 units per acre. By right, density starts at 10,000 square feet in the town. Higher densities require a special permit, which allows the town boards to address site-specific issues. Density should be influenced by many factors and is best left to the local community, not dictated one size for all from above. Marshfield should comment that Marshfield and other adjacent communities that already have more than 10% of our housing stock as multifamily and that has no infrastructure that connects us to MBTA services should be exempt from this new law and these guidelines. And then Marshfield should choose not to comply with the proposed guidelines and not to apply for funds from the Housing Choice Initiative, Local Capital Projects Fund, and Mass Works infrastructure programs. And that's it for that presentation, Michael.
Well, I think you sum it up just fine with your recommendations.
Me too.
It doesn't seem like even close to a good fit for us here in Marshfield.
My next suggestion is that the board consider what you guys want to do about this and then contact the selectmen, and we should probably have a selectmen presentation as well. And then the two boards and maybe the DPW discuss this. So we had gone to town meeting with a lot of zone changes at the last special, and it was because we knew this was coming and that this was going to require major rezoning in the town. They were very late in getting out the regulations, and now that we've seen the regulations, my suggestion is we don't move on this and we do not pick a zone in town where there would be 15 units by right, multifamily housing.
So you're looking for a vote from us to go ahead with your recommendations?
And to move with the selectmen and have a discussion with them and then see if the selectmen will do the same.
Okay. Anyone from the board want to mention anything before I try a motion?
I think it's a lose-lose proposition for us, so I'm not in favor of, I'm in favor of Greg's recommendations.
I feel the same.
Agreed. I think it's really a terrible idea for us. It doesn't fit our town at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's do a motion so Greg can move forward. I'll make a motion that we recommend all of Greg's recommendations as listed here tonight, and that we try to have a joint meeting with the selectmen with Greg's proposal and recommendations. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Thank you, Fred.
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick
Papastratus, aye.
Kevin
Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. So thank you, Greg.
Okay, Michael. So on that side, all I wanted to say is that would leave it as there would be only one zoning article that the planning board would be taking to Springtown meeting then. And that would be the article that we had to hold on last year because we didn't hold a public hearing on the select board being placed into the zoning. So from the Board of Selectmen to select board language. That would be our only planning board article that we would be proposing at this upcoming town meeting.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Greg. We're going to move on to Cranberry Cove, the surety partial release. I'll let Greg talk about that.
So we had Jack, I believe, and Kenneth are both here. Jack, do you want to say anything? Because you're the one who had asked for the release of funds. So Northland is looking for a release of $5,874 for work that they have done on the subdivision.
And how much is left in there after that?
Like 17,000, I believe.
Oh, so there are 23 in there right now. 22.
Yep.
Okay.
Jack, is there anything you need to add on that?
I'm sorry, was that directed to me?
Yes, sorry.
No, I'll give the chair the precise number. I don't have the interest, but $17,280 plus whatever accumulated interest has accrued to date for the last couple of years, which is, de minimis. But no, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, I know we have some representatives from the neighborhood. Is that Kenneth? Sorry, you're still muted. There you go.
Yeah, you've got Kenneth Blay from One Cranberry Cove and Frank Nones from the same neighborhood. I don't know what your address is, Frank. But yeah, so a couple of things. I think we're looking at what, $5,700 of release.
No,
I think the last time we talked, it was 3,300. I think it was at the last meeting. Somehow, I'm not sure how we got up to 5,700, but there's a couple of concerns that I have. First off was the trees, or the estimates in general for what was given. And I know I've emailed Greg and the board on this. They sent an updated spreadsheet for where the costs are coming from, where Pat Brennan is getting the cost for these things. And just in going through it, I don't know how to calculate this stuff. I mean, I just dug through just to see, for example, the trees. I know they planted red maples, and when I looked at the red maples on the spreadsheet that was sent to me, the least expensive red maple that I could find was $447. There were 11 types of red maple. That's what we have planted. The average cost of those was $915. Median cost is $700. So I'm not sure how we get the $350 for the trees. That said, there's also still trees that need to be replaced, and I'm not sure how those trees got assessed, because there are some trees that actually look worse than some of the other ones that were actually replaced. So there's a question on that. There's probably another 4 to 6 trees that need to be replaced on that. I'll say the same thing with regard to the concrete sidewalk. If there's a discrepancy with the cost of the trees, at least that I've indicated, like I said, I don't know what needs to be added together, how many square feet or square yards, or how to read that spreadsheet that was provided. But I do know that we've gotten estimates for the skirts and the sidewalks, and they're well above the $2,600 estimate that are included here. And that being said, the concern here is that we'll release money to Northland, and then the HOA will have to cover monies to actually bring the development up to snuff to what the town of Marshfield is actually looking for. That'll have to come out of our pocket. And it's quite convenient for Northland to basically say, you know what, no, I'm not going to do it. You guys figure it out. That in itself should let you know that it's probably more than the cost that's being included here to do. If it was this or less, they would probably do it. So that's my concern for the HOA, is that we would have to end up covering costs that Northland should actually cover. And the estimates don't seem to be, I don't have much faith in the estimates. And just like I said, from the trees, those seem to be much higher than what's actually included in the estimates.
Greg, the actual release they requested was 5,000, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and what are they asking for that for? Why are they asking for that release?
So they did the safety grates, drainage pipes. They've reduced the number of tree replacements. They initially had $4,000 there. They're now talking about $1,400. They did the detention basin evergreen plantings, which was $1,200. And they did the detention basin erosion repairs, which was $500. And they did the as-built plans for $2,000.
Okay.
Now, the as-built plan shows the driveways as they are now.
Okay, now, Greg, we heard back from Pat Brennan about where he gets his cost estimates from. That's how we've always done them with Pat. He gets them directly from what source, Greg?
The state.
Straight from the state. So.
And I provided Kenneth that information.
Yep, I saw that on the email. So it's
and
really,
that's where I got those numbers.
Yep, and that's really the information we have to go off of on the estimates. We've always put our faith in Pat about those. Not to say there isn't other issues with dying trees and things like that. I haven't been out there to look at it myself. How many dying trees do you still say there is, Ken?
So being nice, because there's some other ones that should probably be replaced, but there's probably another 4 to 6.
So there's roughly 5 trees that still need to be replaced, and Greg's saying they're leaving $1,000 in there. How much was it on the estimate per tree?
Well, they've got 350 on the estimate, and looking at the spreadsheet, like I said, the median cost for a maple tree is 700, but it's 350 on the estimate.
Yeah.
And that's
I don't
that's
know
what.
I don't know the prices of trees. I haven't researched that, so I can't.
Well, but I'm going by the spreadsheet that Pat's supposed to be going by.
Oh, and I go by Pat's spreadsheet. So I'm saying you're saying they're 700. Pat's saying they're 350. I can't tell either way because I don't know what the price of a maple tree is. I rely on Pat to tell me that.
Neither do I. I'm just going by the spreadsheet that was given to me by that was supposed to be what Pat is using.
Yep, that's fine. Let's see, Jack. What are your thoughts on this? You're the one looking for the money back.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. I don't know who I'm speaking to, so I'm not.
So Mike Viviano talking to me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mike. Sorry. What am I thinking about? So Pat Brennan, a consulting engineer, issued a letter in 2017, which you probably all have seen, January 4th of 2017. I walked the site with the consulting engineer, sometime in 2020, the spring of 2020, and to as you said earlier, to lay eyes on all the issues that he had cited and make sure that I understood, what his concerns were, from the erosion of this, or I call it an alligator grate. I guess it would be a child grate, et cetera. At that time, and again, I'm not going to speak for Pat sitting here, but at that time, there were, I believe, 3 trees that he and I, in walking up and down the street, frankly, didn't look good or were dead. They had as little live growth as they did, good, dead growth. They just looked, crappy, in all due respect. And we cited those. We looked at others. Yeah, some of them looked quite healthy. Some of them looked fine. Don't know. So nothing happened in 2020. I went back there this fall. I personally did, without engaging Pat, walk the site, and I was easily able to pull the 3 to 5. I sent my contractor out there. He looked at a couple of them, and he moved the number up to 10. And I said, go ahead and do them. I'm not going to argue about a bunch of trees. They don't look good. Let's do them. It's fall. It's the right time to do it. So by my invoicing, at least the invoicing that I have in my hands here, we replaced 10 trees in the fall. Now, will they die over the winter? Will they come back in the spring? To be determined. Certainly.
How much were your trees, Jack? How much were 10 trees?
Yeah.
Ken, maybe
well, it's a little bit blended because Mike, because they did. I planted 16 trees, 10 on this site, and 6 what are called green spire lindens. They were both 2.5, 2 to 3 caliber. And in round numbers, that was $8,000 divided by 16 trees. So it was $500 a tree.
Okay, 500 a tree.
That's what it cost me.
Okay.
I don't have a screen. I don't have a camera on the screen that I'm working off of, but I'm holding up the invoice in my hand.
Yep.
And
so that's good. That's good to know.
That vendor.
Okay, thank you.
So so that's what I did. I'll dispute Mr. Blaze, claim that there's another 6 to go. Having said that, he lives there. He drives up and down the street each and every day. I don't. I parachuted in, drove through. By my eye, someone who does this, I'm not an arborist, but, if it looks like a duck, it is a duck, If it's dead, it's dead. If it's green, it's green. So by my eye, we replaced what I felt was appropriate to replace. The consulting engineer has asked for some monies to be withheld to the spring for survivability. We'll reassess it in probably mid-June when things leaf out, and we know where we are and we know where we're not. That's all I got.
Okay. So, Ken, let me ask you, Kenneth, I'm sorry, Ken or Kenneth?
Yeah, you can call me Kent. It's fine.
Okay, sorry about that. So have you had any discussions outside of these meetings with Jack to try to resolve some of the issues?
We definitely have.
Okay. How have those been going, in your opinion?
Unfortunately, Jack hasn't been necessarily helpful.
Okay, that's all. That's fine. Katie, do you have your hand up for a question? Okay.
So Mike?
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
So we have had a request before for release of funds, which we didn't do at the time. And then we had a request to modify the plans to remove the concrete aprons, et cetera. And before we could have that hearing on that modification request, I made Jack aware that under state law, you would have to have all the property owners sign off on changes to the subdivision plans. It's kind of clear that that would not happen. So Jack is kind of in a situation where he does not want to do the work. He has done the work that the $5,874 represents. And he's basically seeking that. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it left me with the impression that he would then just leave the remaining money there, and the town and the residents can figure out what to do. Now, for both sides, my recommendation was that if this becomes more expensive than we have the money to do, that the money would then revert into this town's general sidewalk fund. And then the board and the residents could have a discussion on the requirements for the road. We have had other subdivisions where we've had the concrete aprons put in after the fact, and they have not been easy. So I understand the reluctance on Northland's side for doing the work. On the resident side, I understand the desire to have a fully approved subdivision as on the plans. But I don't know if we're going to get to that position.
Greg, so the one big thing that the developer doesn't want to do is finish off all the concrete aprons for the driveways?
I believe that's the main issue. Is that correct, Jack?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so I think I probably speak for the board and Greg, we don't like coming in having to finish somebody's subdivision. That's not easy. It's difficult. It's time and energy that towns shouldn't have to spend on someone's subdivision. So Jack, let me ask you, why don't you want to finish these? So it's a finished subdivision. Why don't you live up to the subdivision that you have built here?
I think it's a fair question. My answer, Mike, is I think it would be absolutely foolish for me to, I sold my last lot there 5 years ago this month. This association, led by, Ken and his colleagues or neighbors, had homeowners trust have been managing their affairs for the last 5 years. We conveyed, the property and the governance to them in January of 2017. To walk in and now and saw cut 5 driveways from 8, 10, 12 feet off the gutter line in off the road, tear out the asphalt on all 5 of those driveways, and then, pour concrete and all of the associated, dog fences, irrigation lines, grass, established lawn areas and the like on either side of each one of those driveway, if you will, aprons or whatever cuts into the property. What utility are we really achieving? You have a functional sidewalk down the right-hand side of the road as you enter it. You have 5 functional driveways and driveway aprons / slopes to the gutter line. What are we accomplishing other than creating a great deal of disruption to each of those 5 unit owners that, frankly, the result of doing the process of doing that work is going to piss each of those guys, those families off. Yeah, that's the last thing I would want. I was like, you're going to do what? You're going to come onto my property. You're going to do all this stuff. It's going to take a couple of weeks. I can't drive in and out of my driveway for a 2-week period of time. And you've accomplished what? You got a concrete apron.
So I know the difficulties, and I hear them. Ken, do you
So
represent?
it's being practical.
Okay, hang on.
It's not being cheap. It's being practical.
I didn't ask you if it was being cheap or not. Just let me try to figure out both sides.
I'm sorry.
Ken, so do you represent the other owners right now? Are you the president of the association?
I'm the president.
Frank,
Okay,
yeah,
Frank's
Frank.
the president. Okay, so can you
Ken
talk to those 5 owners?
Yeah, and I can also speak to as one of the homeowners that would be affected by that. I think that there's a reason why the commission puts that type of thing, those type of regulations for a sidewalk, because the driveways are going to settle different than concrete is. So if we ever have somebody that's handicapped on the end of that road that needs to make their way and the driveway settles differently, it'll be difficult for them.
Yeah,
I have a handicapped father that visits, and if it's challenging for him to walk that sidewalk, that's not a good thing. I don't think that those plans were put in place by accident. So it seems like, it's again, I think that this is what was in the plan. We're just asking that he completes it. If he doesn't want to, we just want enough resources to do it on our own, or the path to do so.
Okay, so did Jack approach each owner to see if they wanted it done or not done?
He did so in a way that we weren't pleased with.
Okay, well, let me just ask Jack then. Jack, how did you approach the owners about the driveways?
I sent a letter to each of the affected owners and asked for their consent to waive the requirement for a concrete apron and concrete sidewalk crossing across their driveway.
Did anybody say yes, Jack?
No, the trust as a corpus stepped in and spoke for them, saying no.
So they want their subdivision completed as per the plans. Does that sound correct, Jack?
I presume so, yes.
Okay. So earlier,
Frank just spoke to that effect. So.
Okay. Well, just earlier you had said to me that, you almost put words in their mouth. You said that these owners would be inconvenienced and wouldn't want you working on their property, where what I am hearing is the exact opposite, that these people will live with that inconvenience and do want these things done to their property. So it's correct. Would you agree with that, Jack?
That's what they've stated, correct, yes.
Okay. So I think that makes it pretty clear what they want and what you are required to do. Now, you gave me a list of reasons why it's difficult for you to do, and I agree. We've been through it before with many developers who don't do what they're supposed to do, and it is difficult to put these in. I'm in construction. I understand what it takes to do it. Are you willing to do that now that we all have a clear understanding they want this done?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Okay. So, Frank, are you disputing how much money it could potentially cost to finish off these driveways? Have you guys got any estimates on your own?
We have.
Okay.
And
What are those
we
estimates?
are.
Okay.
Ken, do you have that handy?
Yeah, the estimates that we have is roughly 3,000 to 3,500 per driveway. The other thing that is missing from the estimate, they have 5 units, so there's 5 homeowners, but there's also a section that's in front of the mail house.
Okay, yes, I remember that.
That is not included in this estimate.
So tell me, what in your estimate that you received, what is the amount?
Including mail house, I don't have a written figure but it's probably going to be like 17 to 18,000 to get this done.
So right now he has $22,280 sitting there. He's requesting $5,000, which would leave the fund with $17,280. So we're in the right ballpark of what needs to be put there to do the job. If the town needs to finish it, it costs more. If you guys finish it on your own, it costs less. Okay. So we don't have estimates. We haven't even gone down that road yet. So.
Right.
Greg, let me, am I wrong about that at all?
Well, you were correct with the numbers, except that there's still the issue of the trees that would also consume some of the remainder that we would need to keep in there.
Jack, what are your thoughts of if the trees are dead come the springtime? Are you still going to replace any dead trees?
Mike, I guess it's, where is this overall conversation going?
I'm trying to understand the situation. That's where it's all going.
Well, the short answer is yes. The Pat Brennan has earmarked $1,400 for the replacement of trees that when he goes out and looks at the place and says it isn't right, if he says something's not live, then I'm on the hook if I want to get more money back. So I would plant a tree. Yes.
Mike, if I could interject, one of the things one of the reasons that the trees have failed is that they were actually planted with the metal cages around the root ball. And so the trees are basically have the roots cannot expand outside of that root ball. And that's all of the trees. That's not just 3 trees, that's all of the trees.
Okay. Any questions from the board at all? I think I have my head wrapped around it. Do you guys need any other clarification at all?
I think I'm good. Mike, you've been doing a pretty good job navigating this. Thanks.
Okay. So I think with knowing there's potential other issues, and Jack, in my opinion, Jack wants to walk away from his responsibility of finishing this road, leaving roughly the amount that, the town doesn't have estimates on, but that the association has estimates on. And not that I don't believe your estimates, but until we see something on our own, we can't say it's, fact or fiction. So I'm not quite sure. So I'd say right now, I'm not looking to release any surety until I know the numbers that it's really going to cost to finish this road. And I'll listen to other members on the board. If anyone wants to try to release some money, we could. But right now, I'm not in favor of releasing any money at this point.
I'm in agreement, Mike.
Okay.
Don't mind Mike. Total agreement with that.
Agreed.
Okay. Kevin?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So Jack, right now, Greg, I don't think we need a vote because we're not going to release anything, it looks like, right? Or do we need a vote saying we will not release anything at this time?
It's probably safe to take a vote, so.
Okay. So Jack, at this time, I'm going to make a motion in just a minute. I'm not saying your money won't be released at some point, but I'm not comfortable releasing any right now until I know there's enough money there to finish the subdivision. Do you understand that?
Clearly, yes.
Okay. Do you want to say anything, or is we good to make a motion?
No, you've done a nice job, Mike. Thank you.
All right.
You're
So
free
at
to
this
make a
time, I'll
motion.
make a motion. We recommend releasing 0 on the surety release. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred?
Aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, thank you. We'll work with the association to get this resolved for you, and we'll work with the owner, well, not the owner, the former developer, Jack.
Thank you all. We appreciate the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Let's see. Next, we're moving on to, I'm sorry.
67 Norwell.
Yep. 67 Norwell Road, the street improvement surety release.
So you've seen Pat's report and photographs. The roadway is done. We are holding $39,804. My recommendation is for the board to vote to release the surety.
Okay. Any questions from the board on this one?
Nope.
Anyone from the public here for this one? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to make a motion. We release the amount Greg just put into the public record.
$39,804.
Okay, so move for that number. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred?
Go aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. All All right, it's nice when everything's completed and we can release that money. So, next we're moving on to California Street lot release with a submittal of a full surety.
So California Street, typically we look for base coat and drainage to be installed prior to releasing lots. This is a single lot. They would like to do all the work before putting any pavement down, and they're willing to put the full amount. Pat gave us two estimates. The low estimate is $103,593, but that's with a smaller water line than the DPW recommended and we approved. The full cost with the DPW water line as approved by the planning board would be $154,653.
Okay, and I know there was some kind of question about either using a 1-inch water main or using a full 6 or 8 inch water main. What did DPW come back with that?
So our approval was for the 6-inch water main because 8-inch pipe is not available, and that the DPW was going to provide the hydrant for that connection.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be to go with the $154,653 number, because that's what you guys approved.
Okay, any questions from the board at all?
No.
Anyone here from the public for this? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to make a motion that we release the California Street lot with a full surety of $154,653. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, we're getting down there. Board and staff reports. Kevin, I'm sorry, Greg?
Hey, sorry, if I could just jump in for a second here. Sorry.
On which
Mike,
topic?
I actually wanted to quickly discuss the associate member again. I sorry, I didn't get a chance to chime in previously. If that's all right, do you mind, Mike?
Yeah. Well, do you want to do it at the next meeting and we can talk about it? 'Cause
well, I actually meant to chime in. I was hoping that we could potentially vote tonight on that. I guess I just wanted to add, I've known Scott most of my life here. I think he would be a great candidate for the open position on the board. And I think given the question Katie asked about, his desire to potentially be on a full-time member if and when a position becomes available, I think that, that will only help. I think, in my opinion, that would be the goal, that an associate member would eventually look to become a full-time member. So I guess I just wanted to gauge everyone else on whether they'd be willing to vote tonight.
I don't think I'm really ready to vote this second. I'm not for or against at this point because I just learned about him today. So I apologize. I'm really not. I think at the next meeting, we'll be absolutely fine to take a vote on it, if you're okay with that. But you're welcome to make a motion. I'm not the only one that makes motions here.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
So
I'll second. And then I have a question actually about it.
Well, before you second, let's do questions. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yep.
One thought that I did have is that I know that Peg's not here tonight, but Red Gold is clearly a large hearing, and I know it's a WRPD. If we were to appoint Scott tonight, and because he was present for the hearing as well, would he be able to vote as an associate if we needed that vote? Like if we needed somebody to vote later on? Is that a Bob Galvin question, or?
I would want to check with Bob Galvin. You could use the rule of necessity. Peg had her term already expired, so neither candidate could just automatically jump in because neither of them are sworn in as of tonight. But I can check with Bob Galvin, and you probably use the rule of necessity if this goes 2 to 3 meetings and somebody can't make a meeting, that would, allow the associate to fill in the place.
Can he use the mulligan rule?
He may say yes to that, but I want to ask him that though.
All right, that's fine.
That was just kind of a side note. I feel like since we've moved to Zoom, we haven't had problems getting a quorum, but I know that in the past that has been an issue and why we really have a need for an associate member who can be present at all the meetings.
Sure. Okay. Anyone else on the board about this? I think Nick's about to make a motion, so if you want to go ahead, Nick, you make a motion if you'd like.
So I'd like to make a motion that we select Scott DeCastro as to fill the open associate member position as part of the planning board.
Fred Monaco.
Second?
Fred Monaco, second.
Okay, so Fred's second, and we'll do a roll call vote. Katie?
Aye.
Fred?
Aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, yes.
And I'm a nay for Mike Viviano. Nothing against you, Scott. I just heard about you tonight, so.
No
so
problem. Appreciate the honesty.
All right, yeah, thank you. It's 4-1 in favor of, so welcome, and the selectmen will do what they need to do from there to get you officially on the board, and then you'll get sworn in. So we'll see you soon on the board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Actually, Mike, he doesn't need to go to the selectmen. He would go to the town clerk to swear in and stuff.
Okay, great.
Because the associate is a planning board choice. If one of you guys were to leave and we had to fill the spot, then it's a selectman and planning board vote.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Greg, I'll let you keep going on the staff report.
Okay, so the one thing on the board and staff report, because I knew it was going to be a busy night, we forgot to add Birch Street A&R in. This was already signed by the planning board about a year and a half ago or so. It went to land court, and land court told them they needed to take off a bunch of references and numbers. So they've taken it off to be land court ready. They have submitted the application fee. So I was basically going to ask the board to add it to the agenda and to vote it, because basically you've already said yes to the same plan. It doesn't change any property lines. It doesn't change any lots. It's just now in the form that the new land court person wants future land court plans to be in.
Okay, so you're looking to add it to the agenda now?
Yes, please.
Okay, is there a number for Birch Street?
Well, Birch Street ends in, let's see, existing house number 54 to existing house 80.
Or what's the date? What's the date of the plan?
Oh, hold on one second. Revised date is 11/17/2021.
Okay, any discussion before I make a motion to add it? Okay, I'll make a motion that we add the Birch Street land court plan of 11/17/21 to the agenda. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. And Greg, I think you just explained to us there was no changes on this plan. It was just for land court.
Yes.
Okay, and we're voting to endorse it?
Yes.
Okay, any questions from the board? Okay, seeing that, I'll make a motion that we endorse the plan for Birch Street dated 11/17/21. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratis, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay. So we need to come in and sign that, Greg?
Fred can do it for the board.
Oh, great. Have at it, Fred. Thank you for your service. All right. Anything else on your staff report, Greg?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else from the board that we rarely get, but Nick got us tonight?
Sorry, one other follow-up on the.
Sorry, Nick, can't do it.
On the potential site visit, remind me, we can't have more than 3. Is that right? Sorry, for the new development from tonight.
We can if we don't discuss it, right?
3 would be a quorum, but we would post it, and it would be that we are not making any decisions, not having any discussion. It's basically a site walk.
Okay. I would definitely like to be in attendance if possible. So.
And I mean, if we need to take, like, if not all of you can make that one day, we can get you out there several different times.
Okay.
Greg,
Figure on it. What? Go ahead, Karen.
are we going to ask the applicant if they'll let the public come?
I will ask the applicant, but I mean, we'll post it. We're going to walk the site. The applicant could say no to the regular public attending. So.
Good question, yeah.
Yeah, it's up to them. Okay, so next we're moving on. Well, do we want to try to make a date for that while we're all sitting here together instead of emails?
Sure.
Yep, probably easier, right? Is any day of the week work better or does not work for somebody? I'm available 7 days a week.
Matter to me.
Later Thursday, Fridays are better for me.
Well, Fridays are the worst, right? How about Thursdays? Thursday work for anybody?
Thursday's fine with me.
Okay.
Times are tricky for me. I would only be able to do like very early in the morning or like after 3:30.
Well, it gets pretty dark at 4:30 at this time of the year.
So
and it's not light until 7. So what time could you start in the morning, Katie?
Probably 7. I have to be in Hanover by 8.
So should we do you separately?
Yeah, I might have to do
on a
weekend
weekend
day if that's possible.
Well,
Yeah.
Katie, if
We'll do a
you're more flexible at the beginning of the week, I can work with that. That's fine.
Oh no, it's just any day, just school hours.
Okay.
So
Okay. So maybe Katie can do it separately on a weekend or something.
yeah.
Why don't we shoot for the Thursday after next if it's not 3 feet of snow on the ground?
So is that the 20th of January?
27th.
27th.
Thursday after next.
Oh, the next, okay, yeah, 27th.
Yep. Yeah, shoot for the 27th, and maybe we could do when it's slightly warmer in the morning, like 9.
Yeah.
That work for the other 4?
Sure.
Yeah, that'll work for me too.
Okay, so we'll shoot for the 27th, and Greg will check with the applicants. Email us 9 o'clock. And Greg, just let us know where to start too, because it's a big place, obviously.
Yeah, we'll probably have you guys all meet by the Cranberry Barn, the Wooden Barn. That's where we had met. It will probably take at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half to walk it.
It's going to take probably way longer than that. The place is huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of the bogs and stuff, we're just going to be walking to see the overall, but the woods and stuff, that area is not that large.
Okay, so that's good. Hopefully you come back and the applicant can do that with us, and then you can post it. That's enough time to post it, right? Is that enough time for you to post that meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So that's weather permitting, of course, Mike, right?
Because it's not a public hearing, we don't have to put it in the newspaper or anything.
Oh, okay, great.
You guys are not debating anything. It's like a meeting posting.
If it is a lot of snow, we can all take my snowmobiles. I only have 2, and there's 4 of us, so we'll see how that goes.
Scott, you can come too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, he would be, so long as he goes to the town clerk, he's all good to go.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
just go get sworn in, so then you're off and running.
Yeah, Scott, we don't get many site visits anymore, so it'll be nice just to do them all the time. All right, so that's great. I'm glad we did that. Request for advice on the Board of Appeals, Greg?
Nothing major. We might have minor comments on one. There's only like 3 or 4 things with the Board of Appeals this week. We've been in discussion with them on an accessory apartment. They were like wondering, why is there a minimum lot requirement for R1? So.
Okay. So nothing discussed right now. We're good?
Nothing for the board to worry about.
Okay, I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes of 12/13/21. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, anything else from the board before I call for a roll call to close? I think we did pretty good. 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So that was good.
One like fallen soldier here. I don't know if you can see him. Pass it up.
So, all right. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, members, and welcome, Scott. And I'll make a motion that we close tonight's public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Aye, Katie O'Donnell.
Fred,
Fred Monaco, aye.
Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. That concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, good
Bye.
night.